This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Welcome to this edition of the SAU Report. I'm Liz Mattern.
And I'm Charles Bostick. Today our guest is Director of Bands, J.P. Wilson. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
What made you want to become a band director?
I guess for me, I was brought up in a music program at a young age that was very successful. Both of my parents were involved in music, and then the public school teachers that were my band directors were both really great teachers and just instilled in me a love for music and a love for working in that kind of atmosphere.
All right.
What are some of your responsibilities as far as being the band director goes?
The general concept or overall concept is just the administration of the band program. Here at SAU we have a marching band, 2 concert bands, we have a jazz band program, pep bands, and so it's my responsibility to make sure that all of those are in the right place at the right time.
Right. What was your first impression of SAU and even more specifically the SAU band program?
The opportunity arose for this position and I came and interviewed. I'm familiar with the program, or had been familiar I should say, back in my college days, and I wanted the opportunity to be a director of bands and really found the campus to be friendly and everyone to be very helpful and kind. The band program was in great shape and the students were very determined to move forward, and that's the kind of program I was looking for.
Right.
How did you obtain your current position at SAU?
I taught public school in Arkansas for some time, went back and attained my master's degrees, then spent a little time as a assistant director of bands on the college level, and then the very next year I had the opportunity to come and interview here, and here I am today.
Wow. When you became a band director, did you have to learn to play every instrument that's in a band?
Every music ed major, instrumental music ed major, does have to have a proficiency on every instrument. Keyboard, all of the brasses, all of the woodwinds and percussion, at least to an extent where they can understand what goes on with each instrument so that they can help their students when they then get out and teach.
Wow.
What do you feel like you do best in your area of expertise?
I guess maybe for me it's communication. A big part of a director's job is visiting not only with people such as yourselves and talking about their program, but also working with students, other directors, incoming freshmen, let's say, for here, or transfer students. And so for me, I guess it would be communication, because I really enjoy that aspect of trying to get everyone ready to go and try to bring new folks in here.
Right. Have you ever composed or ever thought about writing your own music?
If there were enough hours in the day, I think I might try. A lot of directors, including myself, do arrange existing pieces to fit their own program.
Right.
In fact, the next marching band show that we'll be performing will open the show with a piece that I've arranged from an existing piece of music.
All right. There are many high school students who may think you have to major in music to get a band scholarship.
Right.
Is this the case?
No, absolutely not. In fact, a majority of students that audition for scholarships don't realize that they can receive the same amount of scholarship as a music major in many cases.
Right.
A majority of the students that we have in our program right now are actually non-music majors. In fact, I would say there are more non-majors than there are majors and even minors.
Right, that's interesting.
What are some of the advantages or opportunities that may come about from playing in a marching band?
Well, certainly there's that sense of belonging. Let's say even on the public school level, you have an automatic family. You have someone that is striving for the same goals that you are. Opportunity to be seen in a performing situation. On the university level, I really enjoy the fact that these students know by the time they reach this stage of their band game, if you will,
right,
that they know what everyone else has gone through to get here, and they understand. So we're afforded the opportunity of having family, if you will, right away when they walk in the door.
Right.
Your first year, as the two of you I'm sure know, is a little scary
Right.
at times, and so it's so nice to walk in the door. It's a little unsure, but by the end of the first rehearsal, you realize that it's just like being at home. It's back in the same situation. We do the same things.
I agree with that. How does the program recruit new members every year?
Recruiting falls on the shoulders of the members of the faculty for any area, and in music, the biggest thing that we do is individual visits where we will go to schools and visit with students and talk to directors.
Right.
We do a lot of mailings where we find out early in the year who has seniors that are graduating and what instruments they play, and we send them information. We also go to conferences, and during marching season, we attend football games where I'm headed tonight.
Right.
And so we just try to go out and see the kids as often as we can, and try to find students, whether they're at a large school or a small school, because it's difficult sometimes, and as we say, a little scary, a little unsure. And so we try to get to those students to let them know what's here, and let them know what their opportunities are.
That face-to-face contact with the students helps
Absolutely.
quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Right.
Take us through a typical day on the job, and what does it entail?
All right. Depending on which courses are that day, we have, during the marching season this year, I am teaching a materials and methods course, which I affectionately call Band Director 101, where we work on things of how to administer a program.
Right.
We also do private instruction as far as individual lessons on whatever the student's instrument may be. Middle of the day, we have band rehearsal. And band rehearsal, we get the group together and we'll warm up, and then we'll either learn new drill or try to clean and repeat existing drill, the actual marching that we do. From there, when we finish that, it's, do we have any problems with instruments? Do we have any problems with people? Who's not here? Who's sick? What's going on? Try to figure that stuff out. And after that, back in evaluation with the other director that's here with us, Mrs. Sarah Mickey, and we try to look at what went well or what didn't go well on the students and on our part. What could we have done differently to make a little more positive effect, if you will, for the rehearsal. We have ensembles that meet after that, including jazz band, and then say on Thursdays we have pep rallies. So generally our day starts 8 in the morning and goes to around 6 or 7. And then you go home and you spend about 3 hours working on the next day, setting up whether it's riding drill or whatever, and then you come back and you do it again.
That's a pretty full day.
It's a fairly long day.
Yeah, I bet. All right, what would you say are the major differences between a high school band and a college band?
That's a great question. You know, for me, on different levels, you can look at this. There, of course, is a little difference in maturity of sound, just like the difference between junior high and high school. Of course, there's a difference from high school to college. We don't, on the college level, you don't see a lot of after-school or before-school rehearsals. At this age, so many students have outside activities, whether it be social organizations or a job that they need to work outside of school. And so for us, the biggest difference is time and amount of time that we can actually have with the students.
Right.
So
It amazes me that the high school bands do practice all that time, and the college band doesn't practice as much, but the result is still as good.
that maturity factor really kicks in for us. It's different also in that mom and dad aren't here, whether it be for any of your classes or certainly for band. You get used to having a band boost organization, and you no longer have that. We find, I guess the biggest difference for me on the college level has been that besides the regular 20 hats that a director wears on the public school level, now we're also sometimes mom and dad or a figure that they're away from more often now than they're used to having at home, that security. So we take on a little more personal role, I think, than maybe we are able to do on the high school level.
Marching bands have changed throughout the years, such as uniforms or even instruments. How can you relate to these changes?
Well, the most important thing that anyone can do as a director, and I guess in education in general, is try to stay current of what the latest trends and techniques are. Every summer, we have the Drum Corps International, which is Drum and Bugle Corps of America. And certainly they've had a major role in the influence and effect of our modern marching band. Pardon me. The other thing is conferences, state meetings, regional workshops where you can visit with other directors, get ideas, talk about things that have worked for you or not worked for you, and vice versa, and just bounce ideas off one another.
All right. What would you say is the toughest instrument to play, or is there a toughest instrument?
I think they all have their own little intrinsic situations, if you will, or challenges. Myself, I'm a brass player, and so for me it's woodwind instruments. The oboe is probably a little more difficult than most instruments, but it's a marvelous instrument. And I would say they all have little challenges, but you can gain a great deal of success on any of them.
Like say someone has rhythm, they wouldn't want to, if they didn't have rhythm, they couldn't play drums. So
yeah, at a young age, you find that you try to go through, a lot of schools do testing, music tests, to see what the strengths of individual students are, and help them place to maybe make a choice for what instrument they're wanting to play. On this level, we're fortunate in that they have already been playing their instrument for 6, 7 years by this time, and so we have the opportunity to just help them fine-tune their abilities and put them in the ensemble.
Do you feel that parents are somewhat evaluating you on how well their child plays or performs?
Actually, yeah, I think so. On the college level, it's a little different. You know, for example, Magnolia High School, when you go to the football game, every mom and dad is going to be in attendance at the game. Well, here, we have some students from Austin, Texas, and Ohio, and mom and dad aren't going to be at every game. So when those students have mom and dad there, it's important that they have a good performance. And so, yeah, I think we really do try to look at what we're displaying for the parents, because we want them to be happy with the program that their child has entered, that they've entrusted their child to come to. We certainly want them to be happy with the success of that.
When the audience watches the band perform at football games on the field, do you come up with the ideas, or are these taken from other sources?
Here at SAU, I actually write our shows. I write the drill, the actual designs on the field. There are companies that directors can use as resources. You can send them a list of music that you would like to use, and they'll actually make out your show for you. Many people write their own drill. I think not just in the concept that it's more personal, but more importantly, you know what each individual can do, and maybe if this area is a little stronger and you want to showcase them more, then you can manipulate them on the field to help do that. So.
After football season is finished, what does the band have planned?
Actually, the spring semester is every bit as busy, if not busier, than the fall semester, and a lot of times people find that surprising, since we're so visible during football season. The symphonic band and the concert band perform numerous concerts, as does the jazz program. We also have chamber ensembles that meet regularly. We also, as a big recruiting tool, we go on a tour of high schools. Last year we were in the East Texas area. And so we try to go out and play 5 or 6 high schools to let them see what our product is here on the school, and give them a first-hand chance to look and see what we have to offer.
That's a good point. I mean, that's a good way to recruit people too.
Yeah, that's been one of our biggest tools.
To go play for them. What are the shows that people can see from the SAU band on the field?
This year we're doing something a little different. Last year we did one show and it just grew through the year. We kept adding pieces. This year we're doing 2 separate shows. The first show that we've done is a pretty straight-ahead jazz show, some music from Gershwin, and the next show that we'll do will be more of a Latin show with traditional Latin sounds and even some drum corps. As we mentioned earlier, some drum corps influences. We have a lot of students here that not only enjoy the drum corps scene, but we have some music majors that are good arrangers, and we've been fortunate this year to have one of those students write a couple of pieces for us.
What are some of the musical pieces that the band will be playing?
Well, this semester we play our main music on the field, and then we also have music in the stands. These are more contemporary pop pieces, things like that the crowd may recognize, or songs that they're familiar with at football games from junior high to college. Hey Baby, Land of a Thousand Dances, things they're all used to. May not know the names, but they know the tune. we'll play those, and then actually, as football season winds down in November, we will begin looking at some concert music. And of course, our jazz band has been working on a program that they'll be performing in December. So there's a lot of different pieces going on, a lot of different styles that happen all through the year.
Do you think that the audience has any influence on the kinds of music you play?
I think so. You certainly want to play something that is going to be appealing.
Right.
One of the toughest things as far as picking a performance, trying to decide what music, you have to, as a director, you have to select something that is appropriate for the time you're playing, appropriate for the audience you're playing for, enjoyable yet challenging for the students, and then lastly, you try to think of something for yourself that you're going to enjoy working with these folks, because as the director, you're going to be listening to it and working with it every day, just like the students that are playing with you. So it's got to be something that's challenging and enjoyable. There are such large volumes of music that are very demanding yet very enjoyable for students to play. And our goal is to work those to where it sounds as though it's effortless for us, so the audience can really enjoy it.
That's a good point. This is a little bit different subject. What's the best concert you've ever seen?
The best concert? Probably a close tie would be, I had an opportunity in Washington, D.C. to go to the evening parade at the Marine Barracks and heard 3 different organizations playing. It was a drum and bugle corps, an old drum and fife corps, and then a bugle corps, and really was just taken with the whole evening. It was just a wonderful spectacle visually as well as the music that we heard. And I guess at another end of the spectrum would be the Chicago Symphony, a premier symphony in a group that ever since I've been growing up, I've heard recordings of that orchestra, and so to hear them live was just fantastic for me.
So let's say when you go to one of these concerts, do you get ideas for, let's say, the SAU band to play from that?
Sure, I think so. You know, a lot of the music that we do in concert season, maybe some of the older transcriptions are literally arrangements that suit the band that were originally written for the orchestra. And then again, some of the music that I heard at that evening parade, we were able to use for some marching bands. So yes, we take things and borrow ideas from other folks of music that's enjoyable, of things that are appealing, and try to make it fit with our ensembles, whatever they may be.
What other universities around the state would you consider to be a good band?
Oh gosh, I think every university in this state has a good program and has a lot of positive things going for it. I like the tradition that has been established and maintained at Henderson State. Also, the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, 2 schools that I'm very familiar with. And again, my alma mater, UCA, a lot of rich tradition at that school in the music department as well. But I guess I'm most proud of what's happening here at SAU. The students have really stayed tough and held us together and really worked hard for us year in and year out. And so I've really, it's been a great move for me, and I can't tell you how happy I am that I've made it here.
Movies contain a lot of great music. Do you have a favorite musical soundtrack?
Wow. We could probably take up another show with that. For me, I guess one of the ones that was most striking to me was, and I didn't really care for the movie, it was okay, but was The Abyss. Some of the music, especially, I can remember the closing credits was just amazing to me. Something about it just really struck in me. My wife listens to Backdraft a lot, and I found that I like a lot of the music on that. So there are a number of scores. I guess my favorite now is some of the old folk music from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou. I have that CD in the player in the truck right now, so we could take a lot of time doing that. There's a lot of great scores out there.
I know movies would be very boring if there was no music.
Oh, sure.
That sort of adds to the storyline, even if it is a bad movie.
You know, I think back to one of the greatest, at least of our era, one of the greatest film composers, certainly John Williams, with Star Wars and Close Encounters. And you hear his music, and it certainly conjures up a visual image. He's certainly one of my favorite modern composers in the film industry. And so, yeah, the musical score in a lot of this stuff is very important. And so it's really really helpful for making the movie successful a lot of times.
Right, I know some of my friends have watched movies, and I mentioned the music, and they don't pay much attention, but they watch it again, and they're like, wow, it's really good stuff
Sure.
going on. Adds to the movie a lot.
Well, I think that's what they aim for sometimes. It's more of a supporting role, if
Right.
you will, like another supporting
Right.
actor.
Right.
And you want that to add to but not take away, not overdo, if
Right.
you will, from what's happening on the film.
Good point.
From what you've been saying, it seems like being in a band or being the band director is very time consuming. As far as a player would go as a student, do you think that students take out enough time to do homework and study and things like that?
Well, we certainly hope so. You know, college is such a busy time. There's so many demands placed for each class and outside interest. We try, since we don't put a lot of extra time outside of class time, let's say, it's difficult. When we ask someone to do homework, it's on an individual basis, and
Right.
what your
Right.
homework may be tonight for me may be totally different than what is required for Charles. And so we leave it up to those students and their good judgment to work on their music and to do their homework,
Right.
if you will, their practice time, so that when we come back, we can focus on just putting it together. Rather than trying to practice for all of those individuals, where we
Right.
can, as we call it, really rehearse rather than practice.
That's a good point. Do you have any musical influences? Who would you say would be your musical influences?
I think so. I guess I was blessed in that every director that I studied under, from the time I started beginning band until I was out in the real world working, I was really fortunate to have great people, each one of them with different strengths and maybe even some weaknesses that I've learned from. One of my assistant directors that I studied with during my undergraduate days, Stephen Pedersen, I also had the opportunity to get a master's degree in conducting with him and then worked with him for a year as his assistant.
Right.
He's a pretty big influence, and then it falls into some of the professionals. Frederick Fennell, really the leader of the wind ensemble movement. I think if it wasn't for Maestro Fennell, many of us wouldn't have a job today. So I would say that he's been a big influence.
Yeah.
And then it's just people that I've seen that are successful in different avenues in the musical world that have been important on shaping my career.
Did your parents have an influence on you?
I think so. My father was a band director. Now, he was never a director when I was in school.
Right.
He was a band director right before I became actually enrolled in school, and but still, that musical background, I guess I came by it honestly, as they say, having parents that were involved in music. And so, yes, I think they helped shape me towards this career that I've taken.
So what types of music would you listen to, say you're in your automobile?
Well, Charles, if you were in my pickup right now and you selected any one of the buttons, you would find a completely different style of
really?
music. If I can remember, the first one is National Public Radio. The next one is a country station. The next one is an R&B station. The next one is a rock station.
Wow.
A wide variety.
I try to listen to a lot of things, and I hope that that's what our students try to keep an open mind in their music.
Right.
Now, I'm not particularly fond of every single artist, maybe in a particular genre, but I certainly try to keep up with what's fresh and current, what the students are listening to get an idea of things that are appealing to them.
Right. I know it's very important because some people are biased against types of music. They've never listened to it, so they don't know if they like it or not. But
Right.
it's a good point.
What advice would you give to high school students or even junior high students that are watching this program that may be considering coming to a university or joining a high school band?
I think the most important thing is start early. I try to encourage students to start looking at the end of their junior year and beginning of their senior year, especially if it's a student that's interested in receiving a scholarship. Lots of folks try to go to school and try to get scholarships, and the quicker you can get in and get the audition process over with, students are actually able to shop around, if you will, and look for what's best for them. And that's truly what we offer here. We are fortunate to be able to help students go to school that may otherwise not be able to. And so band is such a big plus for students in public schools.
Right.
It gives them that walk in the door at home feeling, and also can many times offer them financial assistance through scholarship.
Right. Well, thank you for being with us, Mr. Wilson. That
Thank
concludes
you.
this edition of the SAU Report. I'm Charles Bostick.
And I'm Liz Mattern.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.